I like many things. From food, I like applesauce, grapes. I love oranges. I used to love bananas, but then I stopped because I got sick. Apples I'm allergic to, but I love them because they're applesauce and they're apple juice. Anyway, that's foods. I love music. I love dancing because you move your whole body to like one song and it's just wonderful. I love talking. I can talk for hours and hours and hours. And listening, I like it, but sometimes I don't do it too often. I love being a leader. I love walking and walking fast, actually. If I had a team of fast walkers in my town, I would join it, but I didn't have a team, so. There's so many things in the world to like, and I like a lot of things, so. And that was a few of them.
Question 1. Why did the speaker stop eating bananas? A. She is allergic to them now. B. They made her sick. C. She stopped liking them. D. They are less healthy than apples. Question 2. What sort of a listener is the speaker? A. She is a good listener. B. She likes to listen to people talk. C. She thinks most talkers are boring. D. She is not a good listener. Question 3. Why doesn't the speaker join a team of fast walkers? A. She doesn't like walking fast. B. Because there's no team in her town. C. She prefers running. D. The team walks too fast for her. Question 4. What is the main topic of this talk? A. Exercise. B. Likes. C. Food. D. Hobbies.
I'm Ebony Letitia Tucker. I'm 18 years old. I'm a Scorpio. I was born November 19th, 1979. And I think I should have been born earlier. I came out of my mother's womb and she told me I was green. And, she said, because I was green, that she thought I'd be like an old girl, like an old lady. That's what she called me, old lady. So, I was quite old. I was beyond my years. And when my younger sister was born, I sort of took over the mommy, role with her. And I took care for a while. I have 2 sisters and 2 brothers. One's deceased, my older brother. My oldest brother is 25. My oldest sister is 21, and my younger sister is 15. The girls are 3 years apart. I get along with my younger sister great. I love her to death. My older sister, unfortunately, does not like me. And I don't know why. My mom is wonderful. She is crazy, just like I am, and I love it. But she was crazy in a bad way, too. So we had some hard times when I was growing up. I go to school. I go to college in New Jersey, and I'm majoring in elementary education and psychology. It's wonderful. I love it so far. I love being in school. I love being on my own. I love working and being busy. I have plenty of goals that I want to accomplish, and I have a plan that, I could follow, but might not go the right way, I'm in love, but we won't talk about that now. In school, I'm also in Army Reserves. I'm in ROTC, which is Reserve Officer Training Corps, and I use them for money, basically. I mean, the discipline also, and to get my body in shape. I like fitness, and I want to be in shape, and that is definitely helpful. I'm also in a group called Leadership Development Program, and I'm a facilitator, and we give workshops about how to run meetings and how to deal with stress in school, and how to run your like staff meeting and how to have something go well for you, how to just plan things and be organized. It's a wonderful group, and I'm glad I'm in it. I'm also in a Black Student Union, which is pretty good. We throw parties, we have leadership conferences, we just have fun, I guess, and we do a lot for the minority camp on campus. Right now I live in New Residence Hall on campus, and I'm happy because it has air conditioning, and I'm not dying of heat exhaustion like I did over the summer, because my house, unfortunately, was really, really hot, and my mom's fan broke, and then my mom stole my fan, and my sister had my fan from school, so I had no fan, and it was rough. It was very rough. Over the summer, this past summer, my best friend, or my really good friend from Ireland, came to visit me, and it was great. Like, I found out that he was really in love with me, and I mean, I loved him before, but yeah, I didn't know how much I did. But at the time he came, I was seeing someone across the street from me, and he was staying in my room. Like, he slept in the bed that was next to mine. Well, on the other side of the room. And that wasn't like a big deal or anything, but the guy I was seeing was very jealous. And he wasn't really my boyfriend, but I was just seeing him, like, a little bit seriously, I guess. And I ended up just losing or wasting 3 weeks of my time with a terrible jerk guy who was across the street. And I had a wonderful, wonderful guy who loved me truly in my home. But it worked out for the best anyway, because I dumped the guy across the street, and Paul, the guy from Ireland, came back for a day before he flew to Kentucky to see his brother. Well, that was about the end of that summer, and I got my first car. Yes, got my first car. That was a highlight of my summer, and I had a wonderful, wonderful babysitting job. That I had 2 lovely kids, the Crawls, Sally and Duncan, and it was just wonderful. The kids were just funny and fun, and they paid me very well, $250 a week. And before I had my car, they let me their car, their old car. They left me money for the kids, and it was wonderful. And then I went to go find my car, and I found the perfect car. My favorite color is blue, and I got a blue car. It's 4 doors. It's not too small. It's not too big, and it runs pretty well. And I only paid $1,495 for it, and it had 85,000 miles. So.
Question 1. Why did the speaker's mother call her an old lady when she was born? A. She was green when she was born. B. She was very wrinkled. C. She was the eldest daughter. D. She should have been born earlier. Question 2. How many brothers does the speaker currently have? A. 3 brothers. B. 2 brothers. C. 4 brothers. D. 1 brother. Question 3. What does the Leadership Development Program do? A. It helps students who have difficulties in school. B. It provides additional tutoring for students. C. It teaches students how to organize themselves. D. It prepares students to be Army officers. Question 4. Where does the speaker's current boyfriend come from? A. The same town. B. Her Army Reserve classes. C. Ireland. D. Her college. Question 5. What did the speaker think about her summer babysitting job? A. She enjoyed it. B. She wanted to buy their car. C. She wanted more money. D. She learned a lot. Question 6. What difficulty did the speaker have during the summer? A. Lack of air conditioning. B. Too many meetings. C. Problems with her mom. D. Stress in school. Question 7. What is the speaker mainly discussing? A. Work. B. Family. C. School. D. Herself.
When I was a senior in college, I got involved with our school literary magazine, which happened to be an art and literary magazine for student and faculty members. And it was also open to alumni. It was a little different than the literary magazine that had originally existed at our school, which was pretty low in quality, and there were a lot of people who actually wouldn't submit their work to it because they didn't want it to be seen alongside of things that were pretty juvenile. So, in my senior year, a couple of us got together with some professors and we decided to put together this new literary magazine that would target a broader audience and, hold up a higher standard with the work that we accepted and were willing to publish. And it turned out to be something that was quite successful, and I was really proud to be a part of it. We decided to go with a female theme originally, because we felt that that was something that was really lacking in our college community as well. So our theme was women in a lifespan, but we didn't exclude men. In fact, we had many male students on staff, and one of our sponsoring professors was a man. So it certainly wasn't limiting in that sense. And it was also very interesting because we got to target a lot of social issues that were very much swept under the carpet at our school, which tended to be very conservative. And we did a lot with sexual harassment, and we tried to target different issues that we felt the other literary magazines weren't even coming close to approaching. Our previous magazine really just had a lot of what I think people think of as overly dramatic, the kind of things you might see more in a high school setting. And I think that we kind of stepped things up a bit with the magazine that we put out, and we wound up winning an award for it, which gave us a bigger budget and was really nice after our first year of putting it out. And we were able to put together a pretty quality publication. It was a lot of work. I mean, I was going to school full time while I was working on this, and because I was editor-in-chief, I was responsible for pretty much everything. I had the final say on all the submissions, and I also had to just make sure that we made all the deadlines. I had to get the thing to print when it was time to send it to print, and I had to deal with the budget. I had to figure out how much everything was going to cost, how much we could afford. I had to work with the art directors, which wasn't always an easy task because the art directors and the editors who were in charge of the literary end of it didn't always see eye to eye on everything. And because a lot of the art was going to be illustrating some of the writing, we had some political differences, which I had to, try to smooth over. And in the end, we put out something that we were really happy with. And I actually think that it was working on this magazine that helped me to get the job that I have now, that I'm out of college, because it's really hard when you come from a college setting where you're just doing a lot of academic writing to, the working world where they want to see that you can actually make something transfer into, a publishing type setting. So I think the fact that I was able to get that whole project off the ground in college really helped me. It gave me something a little different to put in my portfolio, because other than that, it was really just going to be a lot of the kind of work that every college student has to show for themselves by the time they finished, 4 years in any institution. So I'm pretty happy that I was able to do that.
Question 1. What did the speaker think of the old literary magazine? A. She thought it was too expensive. B. She thought it was too political. C. She thought it was too personal. D. She thought it was too immature. Question 2. What was the main theme of the new magazine? A. A modern literary theme. B. Young adults. C. College life. D. A gender-based theme. Question 3. How did the staff get more money for the magazine? A. They sold more copies. B. The college gave them money. C. Publishers gave them grants. D. They won an award. Question 4. What was the speaker responsible for? A. Finding an audience. B. The literary content. C. The artwork. D. Managing the magazine. Question 5. According to the speaker, how did her involvement with the magazine help her? A. It taught her to be responsible. B. It taught her to supervise people. C. It helped her to write better. D. It helped her get a job after college. Question 6. What is the speaker discussing? A. How she won an award. B. How to meet deadlines. C. Her role in changing a magazine. D. Her first job in college.
Recently I read The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner, and I would have to say that it was the best book I've ever read. It was the kind of thing that you pick up and you read straight through. You can't put it down, and by the time you're finished with it, you just never want to even bother with any literary pursuits again, because you're convinced that nothing ever needs to be written after that man put pen to paper. But it's a book that I've been trying to get a lot of my friends to read, and a lot of people get really discouraged with it after the first section, because the way the book is broken up, it's 4 different people telling the story, and the first person who narrates is retarded, and because of the way he's perceiving the world, the language is very confusing. And a lot of the people that I suggested read this book would read that whole first section and come back to me and say, I can't understand it. I don't know what he's talking about. I feel like I just can't follow it. But the thing that makes it so interesting to me is that it's not just that Faulkner's telling a story about a family. He's actually like putting you inside of the characters in the story. I mean, you're really inside the experience when it's the retarded son doing his narration. You really feel like you're seeing the world through his eyes. I mean, it's his thought process that you're actually experiencing, and it's really interesting. I mean, I was pretty much hooked just after the first page, and it gets even better once you get past the beginning narration by Benji. You get onto the portion that's narrated by Quentin, who I think is probably one of my favorite characters in all of literature. And that was incredible. I loved that whole portion of it. And the other two siblings that did narrations were Caddy, and then there was another guy. I can't remember his name, but it was really interesting. I loved the whole thing that Faulkner did with time. And the whole book is sort of non-linear in the way that it's put together, because it's all talking about, all the different characters that narrate are talking about the same experiences, but it's just filtered through different viewpoints, and as a result, all the time is kind of mixed up. But there's constantly this referring back to the idea of watches and clocks, and it's just really insane. It's really hard. It's hard to articulate almost, because the way that it happens is more like the way that you dream or the way that you think more than the way that you talk. So it's really good. It's a lot of stream of consciousness. I remember the first time I read Faulkner, I read Intruder in the Dust, which was back in my sophomore or freshman year of college. And I remember just being really daunted by the fact that he doesn't use periods, and he just has these run-on sentences. And I was just reading it, and I was like, man, this is so disorienting. I can't even figure out where he's going with this. I forget where he started by the time I get to the end of it. So I was really thrown by it at first, and I actually didn't like Faulkner that much. I remember just being horrified at the prospect of having to read more of him. And I more or less attribute this now to the fact that I was pretty young when I first picked him up, because when I read The Sound and the Fury, I was blown away. I mean, I was just really incredibly impressed. I mean, I think the thing about it, the difference between getting really frustrated with Faulkner and just really loving him is you just have to kind of suspend that part of you that expects to follow it as a logical story, and you just have to get into the experience. You have to realize that he's trying to explain to you the way that the experience smelled and the way it felt and the way that, I don't know, just the way that it affected different people in different ways. He's not trying to bring you blow by blow through a story. I mean, he wants you to realize that all these experiences are very subjective, and just the fact that he writes so much about families, I think, is incredibly interesting, because I think that the way that a family interacts is so telling as far as how you're defined as a person. I mean, you grow up in an environment where you pretty much are defined by the people around you and the way that you interact with them. And I feel like a lot of times in literature, events and situations get described completely separate from the context of, the family setting. But, I mean, I can't think of a day that goes by when I'm not somehow affected by some way that I was in my family or some way that my family raised me to be. And I think the fact that Faulkner realizes that everyone is a product of that kind of an environment, and in some cases it's a really crippling environment, and in some cases it's not. It's hardly ever simple. I think the fact that he just really honors that whole idea, it really impressed me. And I mean, it's something that I also noticed in another book that I really liked, As I Lay Dying, which was also about another very dysfunctional family living in the South. But it's something that I think that a lot of people can't really sink their teeth into, but it's so worth reading. I mean, I think that you almost have to put it off, though, until you're a little bit older. I mean, if I could go back now and reread what I read when I was 18, I think I would probably get a lot more out of it than I did when I was that age, because, I mean, when you're in high school, you're accustomed to stories happening in a certain way, and when you're hit with something like that, you just don't know what to do with it at first. And I think it takes a little bit more emotional maturity to, accept that you're reading something that you can't necessarily do a book report on, but you might be able to get something out of emotionally.
Question 1. What was the speaker's overall impression of The Sound and the Fury? A. She thought it was too difficult a plot to follow. B. She disliked hearing the same thing from different perspectives. C. She thought it was a great literary achievement. D. She thought it was interesting but written poorly. Question 2. How have the speaker's friends reacted to this book? A. They did not find the plot to be believable. B. They found the language difficult to follow. C. They enjoyed the first part of the book best. D. They had difficulty following the first narrator. Question 3. What did the speaker find most challenging the first time she read a book by Faulkner? A. His grammar. B. His punctuation. C. His use of time. D. His vocabulary. Question 4. What aspect of The Sound and the Fury did the speaker find most interesting? A. Descriptions of young people. B. Family relationships. C. The experiences of the characters. D. The Tropic of Death. Question 5. What is the speaker's recommendation regarding Faulkner's books? A. It is better to read them when one is older. B. It is better to read them in school. C. People should wait until they have read other literary works. D. People should wait until they have studied literature. Question 6. What is the main topic of this presentation? A. The best books to read. B. Authors with unusual writing styles. C. A book the speaker has read. D. Characters in a story.
Recently I started working for a company that puts together books, and it was a very revealing thing for me because I was always under the impression that when books were written, they were written by someone who secludes themselves in a little garret and writes the book and then sends it away to a publisher when he or she is finished with it. However, it's, been a bit disillusioning for me lately because I'm finding that most books are not written by the person whose name appears on the cover at all, and in fact, they're a collaborative effort of a lot of people who aren't really getting any credit. More or less what happens is a book idea is proposed to a publisher. It's rarely that they get the finished product and then judge it based on its existing worth. Book producers actually come up with ideas that they think will sell, and they write proposals and send them away to publishers who buy the proposal idea with the assumption that we're going to get a big name person to become our vetted author. And being a vetted author really just means that you're going to get your name on the cover and you're going to review the manuscript before it actually sees publication. However, chances are you're not going to have a heck of a lot to do with what the content is, and you're not going to have a heck of a lot to do with the wording. You're simply going to look at that manuscript when it comes in and, maybe cross a few things out, maybe add a few of your own thoughts. But the brunt of the research and the language is put together by people who are not experts on the subject, which I think is even more frightening because there are so many psychology books and so many health books being written out there, and people are picking them up at bookstores with the assumption that these books have some authority and the people who are writing them, have some accountability for what they're saying. However, that's really not the case. People see PhD on the cover and they assume that all of this is coming straight from that person's mouth, but chances are the person who's actually putting the labor into that book is, an editor who's a generalist for the most part and is good with working with language, but not necessarily an expert on the subject matter. And it's actually pretty frightening because some of the ideas that are worked with in the publishing world are things that are just geared towards a population of people who are interested in the subject. And we're really just saying things that we know people want to hear. We're asserting a plausible connection between things simply because it's possible. If you want to find a connection between two things, you can find one. It doesn't matter if it can actually exist. I mean, it's not an absolute just because you can back it up with some sort of evidence. You can construct evidence for anything. So it's really just all about what's going to sell. I mean, that's how the companies determine that they're going to go about pursuing a book idea. I mean, we've actually had editorial meetings where we all sit down and our president will say, okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's any truth to this, because people will be arguing with him as if it's the principle that's at stake. And he's like, it just doesn't matter. You're missing the point. People will buy this, And, for me, it was a real wake-up call because I was one of those people who would pick books up on the shelf and just, assume that what I was reading could be backed up by something. And now I'm just starting to realize that books say what I make them say. and that's pretty much all they say.
Question 1. Before the speaker started her job for the publisher, how did she think books got published? A. An author would propose ideas to publishers before writing a book. B. A knowledgeable author would write a book and then send it to a publisher. C. Publishers would hire authors to write books about approved topics. D. Researchers would find a good editor to help them write their books. Question 2. According to the speaker, who writes most books? A. People who sell book proposals to publishers. B. Experts employed by the publisher. C. Unknown writers and editors. D. Specialists on a topic. Question 3. What does the named author on a book cover usually have to do? A. Pay editors to help them write the book. B. Lead a staff of assistant writers. C. Write the book. D. Make minor editorial changes. Question 4. Why is the speaker concerned about current publishing methods? A. People don't read books with a sufficiently critical perspective. B. People accept the contents of books based on the name on the cover. C. People accept the contents of books based on the reputation of the publisher. D. People tend to believe what they want to believe. Question 5. What does the speaker claim motivates the production of books under these circumstances? A. Whether a book will make a profit or not. B. Whether the book improves the publisher's reputation. C. Whether the book fills a gap in the publisher's catalog. D. Whether the book is accurate or not. Question 6. What is the speaker's attitude to the publishing trends she describes? A. Fascination. B. Curiosity. C. Dismay. D. Admiration. Question 7. What is the main idea of this talk? A. How the speaker got her first book writing job. B. How to get a book idea accepted by a publisher. C. How the speaker's understanding of something has changed. D. How a writer's work is edited before it is published.
Today I got a letter from a friend of mine who just went away to college for his first year. And it was funny, it was bringing back lots of memories for me. He just finished going through Welcome Week, where he was subjected to lots of really awkward icebreakers with people he just met, and, you know, all sorts of forced bonding activities with the people in his dorm. And I was thinking about how when I first went away to college, I was more or less determined to alienate myself as an act of will from everyone that I met. And it turned into a pretty bizarre experience for me. My first year, I was living on campus at Trenton State College, and I pretty much determined after about a week there that I really didn't like anyone in my entire dorm, and rather than, you know, behaving in a mature way about this, I decided to make that really apparent to everyone, and I just kept to myself. I ended up becoming rather close friends with my roommate, but I think we made it really obvious that we didn't want to interact with anyone, and it became almost this elaborate game between us and the people in our dorm who just thought we were being really mysterious, and of course they were all incredibly intrigued by the fact that we didn't want to interact with them, and we were constantly in these ridiculous feuds with people on our floor over things that really didn't matter. We were just trying to assert that we were above them by, you know, not wanting anything to do with them. Every single day I remember people would leave notes on our message board asking us to go to lunch with them because the whole floor had a habit of eating together. A whole process that we found to be utterly appalling at the time. But every single day we would not show up, but for some reason they just felt the need to extend the invitation every single day. And I don't know, after a while I think it turned into a very entertaining thing for us. There was a certain something to that interaction that added I think, good amount of adolescent melodramatic tension to my life, and I think I really enjoyed myself. But but the tragic part of it was that about 3/4 of the way through the year, I just got kind of bored with it, and I realized that I had completely isolated myself from every possible person who wanted anything to do with me. And there was a point at which my roommate and I both realized this, and we couldn't believe, what we had done with our potential personal lives at college. And it was really, really kind of sad. I mean, first year at college, you don't have a car or anything, and you're just stuck with the people that you live with, and you're living in this little microcosm of a world where everything's incredibly out of proportion. By that time, all the drama, all the, admittedly self-created drama that had been perpetuated throughout the year was completely out of control. We had all these really bizarre, convoluted situations with everyone that we had ever interacted with, and no one knew what to make of us. Everybody thought that we were just these aliens, and it was sad. It was really a sad experience. And finally, by my sophomore year, we wound up moving to a different dorm, and there were a few people from our freshman year who, for whatever reason, be it the challenge or just complete generic boredom, decided to try to forge these friendships with us, regardless to the fact that we had, been so difficult for the entire first year living there. And some of those people actually became my closest friends for the remainder of my college experience. But it's funny to this day when I talk to some of those people, they're just like, what were you doing? What were you doing freshman year? Why were you like that? I don't understand, what you were doing with yourself. And it's funny. I mean, I look back on it now and I'm just like, man, what was that all about? I mean, it's funny because now when I go into a new situation where I don't know anyone, I always have that same knee-jerk reaction somehow where I'm just like, I don't even want to have to try. I don't want to have to try to be friends with these people. Let them come to me. Let them come to me. And it's kind of a shoot yourself in the foot kind of idea, I guess, to live your life by. Not exactly a productive philosophy, but it's weird. I mean, I just moved to a new town and, I have all these roommates who I don't know from a hole in the wall, really. We all just kind of randomly got together, and I find myself having a lot of flashbacks to freshman year because I'm having some of these old, like, inclinations rising up where I'm just like, oh, I just want to be really antisocial. I don't want to deal with these people. I don't want to have to pretend to socialize, and I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering if I can possibly handle myself a little bit better this time around than I did the first time around.
Question 1. Why did the speaker begin to think about her behavior during her first year at college? A. She received a letter from a friend. B. She met her old roommate. C. She is not sure why she started thinking of it. D. It was the anniversary of her first going to college. Question 2. How did the speaker's odd behavior start? A. She thought the other people in her dorm were behaving strangely. B. She decided that she didn't like the other people in her dorm. C. Her roommate proposed this as a joke. D. She had been shy ever since she was a child. Question 3. How did the people in the speaker's dorm react to her behavior? A. They argued with her at every opportunity. B. They stopped inviting her to their lunches. C. They complained about her to the college. D. They tried to treat her in a normal, friendly manner. Question 4. What is the speaker's opinion about her behavior as a freshman? A. She thinks it was very immature. B. She thinks she had no alternative. C. She thinks it was the right thing to do at the time. D. She thinks it strengthened her friendships. Question 5. What happened when the speaker recently moved to a new town to live with a group of strangers? A. She felt the urge to behave as she did at college. B. She worked out a strategy to make new friends. C. She behaved as she did at college. D. She was able to make friends much easier. Question 6. What is this talk about? A. The speaker's first year of college. B. The speaker's opinions about college. C. The speaker's problems with her roommate. D. The speaker's best friend.
This summer, I went to Italy for what turned out to be a 3-week trip with a friend of mine from college. It was really a good experience. I've never been out of the country before, and for years I wanted to go. I had always wanted to go on exchange when I was in college, but I couldn't afford it. And, finally, I graduated from school, and I decided I was just going to throw all my money into this trip to Europe. And, it was definitely worth it. I don't think I could have made a better decision as far as that was concerned. We flew into Rome, and we we're going to be meeting up with a tour on our third day there. So we had a little bit of leeway where we were just going to kind of show ourselves around. And at first it was a bit overwhelming. We landed in the airport in Rome, and it was just another world immediately. I mean, the chaos there was just out of this world. I mean, we had a layover in Heathrow on the way there, and everything in England was just so organized and so, everybody was just so cordial. And then all of a sudden we're in Rome, and it was just like everyone was pushing these metal carts to pick up their suitcases, but they were all going in opposite directions, and they were just kind of getting into all these traffic jams. And I mean, I don't know what I expected. I think I was expecting that everything would have English subtitles underneath it or something, so I felt sort of like this barbarian coming over there like, where's my language? I didn't understand Italian. I had taken a year of it in high school at one point, and that was the extent of my experience. And I had also been told that Spanish is very similar to Italian, so I was expecting that, I would be able to interpret what was going on just based on my knowledge of Spanish, because I felt like I had some pretty extensive knowledge of Spanish, but it didn't really work out that way. The friend that I was with really didn't know any Italian either, and it took us, I would say, about 2 hours just to get ourselves out of the airport, get our luggage, and get on the proper bus that was going to take us to our hotel. I mean, it was definitely a crazy, crazy arrival time. And I don't know, as we, spent more time there, we got more and more used to the way that things worked. We had a big hassle with public transportation on our first day, where we decided to take a bus into town, and we didn't know when to get off the bus. Again, I don't know what we were expecting. I guess we were expecting somebody to hold up an English sign and say, Debbie and Christine, you can get off the bus now. But of course, that didn't happen. And we ended up just riding around on this bus endlessly, and we kept trying to ask people questions and in broken Spanish/English Italian, and it wasn't turning out too well for us. Finally, we ran into an exchange student, and he helped us. He got us off the bus at the right stop and pointed us in the proper direction, but it was really, really quite chaotic. And of course, Rome is a really, really manic city. I mean, and just the traffic is completely insane. I mean, there's traffic rules, but people just kind of consider them to be, optional, I guess. So here we are stumbling around the city, all jet lagged, and, there's 10,000 mopeds everywhere. I mean, I think you can get a license when you're 14 to drive mopeds. You have all these half-crazed kids driving around on mopeds, and, they don't care. You can be in the middle of the street. They'll just mow you on down. So, it's definitely a far cry from Princeton, where the pedestrians all have the right of way. I'm just stumbling out in the middle of the street thinking that people are gonna, let me pass, but, people were just narrowly missing me with their vehicles. So that was an interesting little introduction into the ways of Italy. But actually, while we were there, we wound up covering a lot of territory. We spent about 3 days in Rome at first, and then we moved on to Florence, which I actually liked a lot more than Rome. It's a beautiful city. We were there for about 3 days. The tour that we were on was very fast-paced, which was one thing that I think I would change if I went back. I would like to do things, according to when I want to do them, and not according to, when this group of people tells me to, move on to the next place. Because in a lot of cases, I felt like we didn't really get to absorb everything there was to absorb in a certain city. We were always just piled back on the tour bus and taken to the next place. So we covered a lot of territory, but sometimes we just felt like we were running past things, which was kind of crazy. And I think I also found a lot of the people on our tour group to be rather embarrassing. I felt that they should have just gotten shipped straight to Fort Lauderdale. And, they seemed to have a primary interest in just getting drunk in the hotel bar and, hooking up with each other, and nobody really had any cultural interest in being in Europe. I felt like Europe was wasted on them in a way, so I guess I was being sort of, elitist about that, but it was kind of weird just being thrown together with a random group of people. And it was a tour that was designed primarily for young people. It was very cheap, and they had us staying in hostels and in really, inexpensive hotels. So the people on the tour were all under the age of 30, and, some of them were acting like they were under the age of 15. So it was definitely an interesting experience as far as they were all concerned. But But it was definitely wonderful to be over in Europe. I unfortunately felt that I wasn't there long enough to really see everything that I wanted to see. I mean, I think that it was just long enough for me to feel like, okay, now I'm ready to stay. Now I was really settled in, and then it was like, okay, time to load yourself back on the plane and go back home. So that was a little frustrating for me. And the other frustrating thing was we stopped in England on the way back, and I've always wanted to go to England. I wanted to go on exchange there when I was in college, and I didn't get to. So, of course, like, passing through England for me was just like, dangling a carrot in front of my face and then saying, you can't have it. So it was really rough. We had our big hour layover in England, and I, like, couldn't even see outside the airport, and I really wanted to just, go around and see something. And I was actually hoping we would miss our flight, because we almost did. We missed our flight from Rome to Heathrow on the way home, and they had to book us on a later flight, and as a result, they were thinking we might miss our connecting flight. So I was all psyched up for this. I was like, yeah, we're going to be stuck in England for, a couple days. This will be great, we'll just have to bear it, But the girl I was with was all frantic, she really wanted to get back, and they wound up, like, providing a special little tram service to whip us off to our next flight, and we didn't miss it after all, but it was a really nice trip. I definitely hope I can go back if I can, save enough money this year. It's another thing that I hope I can do. I have so many things I want to do, and I can't afford them. That's the problem, but it was a good trip.
Question 1. What was the speaker's first impression of Rome? A. It was more organized than she expected. B. Everyone was very polite and helpful. C. Everything was easy to find. D. It was a disorganized and fast-paced. Question 2. Before joining the tour, how did the speaker and her friend communicate with the local people? A. They were unable to communicate with them. B. They used mainly Spanish. C. They spoke simple Italian. D. They were able to use English with them. Question 3. According to the speaker, what was the main problem with the tour? A. The other people only wanted to see cultural attractions. B. The hotels they stayed in were too cheap. C. It was too expensive. D. They moved too quickly from one place to the next. Question 4. Why did the speaker want to miss the plane in London? A. She was tired of traveling. B. She did not want to rush to catch the plane. C. She did not want to return to Italy. D. She wanted to stay in England. Question 5. What was the speaker's overall evaluation of the trip? A. It was helpful in her later studies. B. It was not worth the money. C. It was a worthwhile experience. D. It was too long. Question 6. What is the main purpose of this talk? A. To compare Italy and England. B. To explain why she went to Italy. C. To describe an experience. D. To tell about a place.
I would like to tell you a little bit about some things I like, and then a little bit about some things I don't like. First of all, I really enjoy exercising. Some of my favorite types of exercise are swimming, especially in rivers in the country and in big oceans, because I like to jump over the waves. I also really enjoy dancing. I like dancing to American music because that's what I know best, and I also like salsa and merengue, which are more Latin types of music. I also like to walk in the woods and to explore. I like to walk through forests, and I like to hear rivers. I enjoy meeting new people too. I like to find out about different ways of life, what different people think, where they're from, and how they live. Probably one of my favorite things are animals. I really love dogs and cats and horses. When I was little, I always tried to talk my mom into letting me have more animals, but usually she wouldn't. So I think now that I'm going to have my own house, I'll try to get lots of animals. Some things that I don't really like are rude people. Sometimes people are not very nice to strangers, and that makes me feel bad. I also don't really like driving. I tend to get pretty bored in the car, and it seems like it just takes a long time to get there. One final thing I don't really like is waiting. Sometimes I'm not a very patient person, and I just like to hurry things up.
Question 1. What type of exercise does the speaker like? A. Swimming. B. Jumping rope. C. Running. D. Mountain biking. Question 2. What does the speaker say she will do in her new house? A. Have many animals. B. Avoid letting strangers come in. C. Invite people to visit. D. Keep it very clean. Question 3. Why does the speaker dislike driving? A. She feels cramped. B. She dislikes traffic. C. She gets car sick. D. She is impatient. Question 4. What is the main topic of this talk? A. Hobbies. B. Experiences in life. C. Exercise. D. Personal preferences.
All my life, I've really liked music. In 5th grade, I started playing the saxophone. I didn't at first know what instrument to play. Then my dad asked me, why didn't I play the saxophone? And he showed me a picture of a saxophone when we went to a music store. And right from that moment, I decided I wanted to play the saxophone. At first, I didn't practice very much, probably about a half hour every day. But then my mom got me music lessons, and I started having good professors, and I started getting more and more interested in music. So then I started practicing more. When I was in high school, I actually got up about an hour and a half or 2 hours before I usually did, before the rest of my family, to practice, because I couldn't practice after school. And this was really good for me because it gave me time to practice, but my family didn't like it because they always had to get up early.
Question 1. When did the speaker start playing the saxophone? A. In the 6th grade. B. In high school. C. In the 5th grade. D. In a middle school. Question 2. Why did the speaker choose the saxophone? A. She saw a picture of it. B. She saw one in a music store. C. Her school gave her one. D. Her friend had one. Question 3. Why did the speaker's family dislike her practicing? A. She was not very good. B. They had to get up early. C. She made too much noise. D. They did not like the saxophone. Question 4. What is this talk about? A. The speaker's family. B. Going to a music store. C. Elementary school. D. Playing an instrument.
There are 6 people in my family. My mom, my dad, me, my 2 sisters, and my brother. My dad's name is Greg. He's a social worker. He just turned 50. My mother's name is Carlene. She's a teacher's aide, which means she helps teachers at the school. She's also 50 years old. My sister's name is Laurel. She studies at Notre Dame. She's in her 3rd year of college. My other sister's name is Katie. She's 18 years old. She really likes to run. My brother, his name is Matthew. He just turned 17. He also runs, but I don't think he likes it as much.
Question 1. How many people are in the speaker's family? A. 7 people. B. 6 people. C. 5 people. D. 4 people. Question 2. How old is the speaker's father? A. 55. B. 60. C. 50. D. 45. Question 3. What does the speaker's 18-year-old sister like doing? A. Teaching. B. Running. C. Helping people. D. Studying. Question 4. What does the speaker's mother do? A. Teach elementary school. B. Work at university. C. Help teachers. D. Social work. Question 5. What is this talk mainly about? A. Her parents' jobs. B. School activities. C. Her interests. D. Family members.
My mom and I do our grocery shopping at a supermarket called Carter's. It's about 15 minutes away from my house, and it usually has the best prices. I guess that's why we usually go there. My mom's always looking for a good bargain. She carries around a big coupon box. It's probably the size of a big dictionary and weighs about as much. And we also always have to walk around looking for the cheapest prices. It makes us feel good to save money when we go grocery shopping.
Question 1. How far is the store from the woman's home? A. Half an hour. B. An hour. C. 45 minutes. D. 15 minutes. Question 2. What does the woman's mom try to find at the store? A. The lowest prices. B. A box. C. A book. D. The best food. Question 3. What makes the woman and her mom feel good? A. When they find a good book. B. When they save money. C. When they finish shopping quickly. D. When they get home with their food. Question 4. What is the woman talking about? A. Shopping for food. B. What she likes to eat. C. A large box. D. Her mother.
I would like to tell you a little bit about some of my favorite foods. Right now, my favorite dish is rice with tuna fish, with little chopped up onions, cucumbers, and ketchup, all mixed together. If you've never tried it, it's very good. I also really like ketchup, tomato ketchup, on many different dishes. I eat ketchup with eggs. Sometimes I eat ketchup always with hamburgers and with many other different foods. For breakfast, I usually eat cereal. I like to eat cereal and milk. Sometimes I have toast with butter and sugar on it. For lunch, we usually eat sandwiches. We take a couple pieces of bread, and sometimes we use peanut butter and jelly. Sometimes we use tuna fish. Sometimes we use turkey or different kinds of meat. Then for lunch, I also usually eat a piece of fruit or some vegetables. In my family, dinner is the biggest meal. We usually try to eat together as a family. We usually have some kind of meat for my brothers and sisters, but my parents don't eat meat, neither do I usually, so we don't have meat. Then we usually eat a lot of vegetables, and then we try to eat fruit as a snack.
Question 1. What's the woman's favorite thing to eat? A. Eggs with ketchup. B. Turkey sandwiches. C. Rice with tuna fish. D. Bread and peanut butter. Question 2. What does the woman usually have for breakfast? A. Hamburgers. B. Eggs. C. Cereal. D. Toast. Question 3. Where does the woman usually have dinner? A. At the cafeteria. B. At a restaurant. C. At home. D. At work. Question 4. What is the woman mainly talking about? A. How to cook. B. Types of sandwiches. C. The foods she likes. D. Her family.
Let me tell you a little bit about my schedule while I studied in college. I would usually get up pretty late, probably about 8 o'clock. The first thing I would do is quickly pray, then I would go to the bathroom, wash my face, and try to finish waking up. After that, I would go to the kitchen and eat breakfast. I'd usually eat something small, like a bagel, maybe a little sandwich or toast, sometimes cereal. After that, I would go back to the bedroom and get dressed. I usually wore jeans and a t-shirt and tennis shoes. After that, I would go back to the bathroom, brush my teeth, comb my hair. Sometimes I would put on makeup, but usually not. Then I would put all my books in my backpack and head out the door and go to class. I usually had class from about 9 until 12. Then after that, I would eat lunch. Usually I would come back to my room and eat, or sometimes I would go to the cafeteria. After that, I usually had a lab. I studied chemistry, so I would go to chemistry lab for 3 hours every afternoon. When my chemistry lab finished at about 4:30, then I went to the gym to exercise. I exercised for about 2 hours. After that, I would go back to my room, take a shower, get cleaned up, and head to the cafeteria to eat dinner. After dinner, I would return to my room, study for a couple hours, probably from 3 to whatever, depending on how much work I had. Then I would brush my teeth, get into my pajamas, and get ready for bed again.
Question 1. What is the first thing the speaker does after getting up? A. Wash her face. B. Get dressed. C. Pray. D. Brush her teeth. Question 2. What does the speaker do all afternoon? A. Exercise in the gym. B. Work in the chemistry lab. C. Study in her room. D. Attend her classes. Question 3. Where does the speaker eat dinner? A. In her room. B. At the lab. C. At her house. D. In the cafeteria. Question 4. What is this talk about? A. Her daily schedule. B. Where she goes to school. C. Her hobbies. D. What she studies.
Last June, I traveled to Ecuador to visit my fiancé. I went right after I graduated from college so that I would have a couple weeks to help plan the wedding. We got married about 3 weeks after I got to Ecuador. The planning, as you can imagine, was pretty crazy because we only had 3 weeks. So things started kind of falling together at the last minute, but the last day was pretty crazy. Because we had so much planning to do for the wedding, we didn't have much time to visit the tourist attractions. But since my mom and my sister also went to Ecuador to be part of the wedding, we went to the beach, which is a beautiful beach on the ocean, and we almost went to a beautiful indigenous market called Otavalo, but we didn't. One thing we did do, we visited an indigenous tribe in the city where my fiancé is from. That was quite interesting. We also spent a couple days walking through the city and going to little stores where they sold different handcrafts that people from Ecuador had made. Other than that, we spent a lot of time planning the wedding, and it was very nice for me to see my mom and sister and for them to meet my fiancé. That was pretty much how I spent my Ecuador vacation this summer.
Question 1. When did the speaker go to Ecuador? A. Right before she started college. B. During the college holidays. C. Right after she graduated from college. D. While she was in a college program. Question 2. Why did the speaker go to Ecuador? A. To meet her boyfriend's family. B. To meet her mother and sister. C. To get married. D. To visit a small village. Question 3. How long did it take to make all the plans for the wedding? A. 2 days. B. 3 weeks. C. A couple months. D. A week. Question 4. What does the word fiancé mean? A. A close family friend. B. A close member of one's family. C. Someone engaged to be married. D. A member of a spouse's family. Question 5. What is the main purpose of this talk? A. To tell about her hometown. B. To describe a country she visited. C. To tell about a family vacation. D. To describe an event in her life.
Hello, my name is Stephanie. I teach English as a second language. In the United States, we call that ESL. I've been teaching ESL for 4 years. I started when I started college. I used to teach on Thursdays and Fridays for an hour and a half every night. Most of my students are from Guatemala and Mexico, although I've also had students from Czechoslovakia and Poland. I really enjoy teaching English because it lets me meet people from other countries, and it's very nice to see how the students progress. I really like it when I spend a lot of time trying to teach someone something and they finally learn it. It's very exciting.
Question 1. How long has the speaker been teaching ESL? A. 1 year. B. 4 years. C. 3 years. D. 2 years. Question 2. Why does the speaker like teaching ESL? A. The work is not very hard. B. She meets people from different countries. C. The hours are very convenient. D. She is studying education in college. Question 3. What does ESL mean? A. English spoken by foreigners. B. Teaching English. C. English spoken in the USA. D. Correct standard English. Question 4. What is this talk about? A. The woman's job. B. Classes the woman is taking. C. The woman's teacher. D. Places the woman has visited.
My husband and I have had many problems with the INS. That stands for Immigration and Naturalization Services. We just got married this June, and my husband has actually never been able to come to the United States because they have not given him his visa. He went to the embassy 3 times before we were married to try to come and visit me, but he was denied every single time. The first time he went, I think he probably should have been denied because he went and he didn't really know exactly where he would be staying, and he didn't have my address or anything. And of course, that was only after we'd known each other a little while. The second time we went, I actually went with him to the embassy in Ecuador. And they wouldn't even let me help him talk because the way the embassy sees it is that the applicant himself has to prove that he has enough ties to the country so that he will return. And they won't even let friends or family, in many cases, help them during their interview in the embassy. So he was denied a second time. The third time, I really thought he was going to get his visa. I had done a lot of work here. I had got him accepted into an English as a second language program. My dad had filed an invitation letter. One of my friends who lived near the university had filed an invitation letter saying that he could stay at her house. And we had everything very well organized. He had his bank accounts. He had everything ready. And so he went to the embassy. He was very well dressed. And the person told him he didn't have enough money, even though he had a lot of money in the bank account. So we are very, very frustrated with this embassy because they won't let anyone come even as a tourist. It's very hard to come from any country in Latin America, with the possible exception of Argentina and Chile. So we've been together for 3 years. He was my boyfriend for 3 years, and then we've been married a little over 2 months. And now I'm in the United States and my husband's in Ecuador because the United States government won't let him come here. But hopefully his paperwork will go through because I believe that once someone gets married, they should automatically get the conditional permanent residence.
Question 1. Where does the speaker's husband live? A. In Mexico. B. In Chile. C. In Ecuador. D. In the United States. Question 2. Why does the speaker think her husband could not get a visa the first time he applied? A. He did not know why he wanted to visit the U.S. B. His girlfriend did not support his application. C. He was not properly prepared. D. His family did not have enough money. Question 3. Why did the embassy refuse the speaker's husband a visa the third time? A. He did not have enough money. B. He did not have a place to stay. C. His application was not complete. D. His application was not supported by an invitation. Question 4. What does the speaker think will happen now that they are married? A. She will be able to go to the embassy to help him. B. She will be able to get a tourist visa to his country. C. Her husband will be able to get an invitation letter. D. Her husband will automatically get a type of visa. Question 5. What is this talk mainly about? A. How to apply for a visa. B. A problem with tourism in Latin America. C. How the speaker met her husband. D. A problem with the government.
Three years ago, I participated in the program Amigos de las Américas, which means Friends of the Americas. It's a volunteer organization based in Houston, Texas. It's similar to the Peace Corps, except that it's for shorter time periods, and it's basically targeted at people in high school or the early college years. What it is they send out those students who know Spanish or Portuguese, depending on what country you go to. They send them to different countries in Latin America to do community service work. They have many different projects. They have community sanitation projects in which the volunteers build latrines and do community service talks. they also have projects in which volunteers actually give vaccines to humans. I think that project is based in Paraguay. Then the project I participated in was rabies vaccination, which is in Ecuador. It's actually kind of interesting how I decided to participate in this. At the point in my life at which I participated in Amigos, I was very interested in human medicine, so I really wanted to do human vaccinations, which would have meant I would have gone to Paraguay. But as it turns out, that program was filled, and so I had to decide what program I wanted to participate in. I've also been very interested in animals and loved them my whole life, so going to Ecuador looked good, but I wasn't still quite sure about that. But then, since when I was in 6th grade, I did a report on Ecuador, and I absolutely fell in love with it. That was what basically tied the knot and made me want to go to Ecuador. So I went to Ecuador, and I did rabies vaccinations for 8 weeks. We also taught English for a little bit, and we did many charlas, which would be kind of like informational talks about dental hygiene, sanitation, nutrition. We also planted some gardens and did talks about that. We talked about rabies, the dangers of smoking, and we made a big, huge mural with a lot of paintings at the elementary school. And we got to meet a lot of nice people. That was actually how I met the man who is now my husband. So I highly recommend the program, but not really for that reason, but it's a very good program. Anyone who's interested in going to Latin America and has a strong interest in community service, I would definitely recommend that they participate.
Question 1. Who are the volunteers for the Amigos de las Americas program? A. U.S. high school students. B. Anyone who speaks Spanish. C. Students who decide not to go to college. D. Graduates from U.S. colleges. Question 2. What was the speaker's first choice? A. Human vaccination in Paraguay. B. Animal vaccination in Ecuador. C. Human vaccination in Ecuador. D. Animal vaccination in Paraguay. Question 3. How long did the speaker spend in Ecuador? A. 3 years. B. 8 weeks. C. 4 weeks. D. 1 year. Question 4. How did this visit to Ecuador change her life? A. She learned to be a teacher. B. She improved her Spanish skills. C. She met the man she wanted to marry. D. She developed an understanding of different cultures. Question 5. What is the purpose of this talk? A. To introduce community service. B. To discuss a college program. C. To describe a special program. D. To tell about a research project.
I have a really interesting story that I'd like to tell you. My boyfriend and I were supposed to get together for spring break. He was supposed to go to the university where I was studying to visit me, but he couldn't get a visa, so he couldn't leave his country. He's from Ecuador, and I was studying in the United States. So he called me on Thursday night to tell me that he couldn't come. And I was very upset. We were both very upset because we had been planning all along that he would come. I had been studying really hard and trying to get a lot of work done so that I would have a lot of time to spend with him when he got here. Well, as it turns out, he couldn't come. But the following week, starting Monday after the Thursday that he called, was our spring break. So, in my head, I started planning right away after we stopped calling that I could maybe surprise him. So, since I'd already gotten a lot of work done, this wasn't going to be too bad, but I still had a paper to write, so I spent all Friday night writing the paper. I got it done about Saturday, and I had to be in New York to leave to fly to Ecuador at about 8 o'clock, so I really hurried up, ran and printed out the paper that I had to turn in, and packed up my bags and got to New York. And then, so all the way in the plane, I'm thinking about how am I going to surprise him? What's the best way to do it? How would it be nicest? And I met some really nice people on the plane, and so we were talking about this, and I just kept getting more and more excited. So by the time I got to Ecuador, I was really, really excited. I got there probably at about 6 or 7 in the morning, which was a good time. So I got on the little trolley, I got on the bus, and I made it to the city where my boyfriend lived. And so then I was still trying to decide how I was going to do it, and so I got in a taxi, and I had to try to find my way to this place. Well, first I had told him that At first I told him that I needed to go to a little store that was on Guayaquil Street. So we drove up and down Guayaquil Street, and we didn't see the little store. So then I was thinking that maybe I had the name wrong because it had been a while since I was there. And so I was like, well, I don't think it's this name, but... And I was trying to tell him more or less where it was at because I had remembered going by it before. And so then finally it turns out that it was on Galapagos Street. And so we made it to the store. And he dropped me off, and I got out. And since I got there on a Sunday, the store was closed. So I went to a little grocery store that was right beside the package place. And I had one of the people from the grocery store call my boyfriend to tell him that he had a package to pick up and to ask him if he could get there as soon as possible because she had to go away to go on a trip. So I was inside the little grocery store, which was right by the package agency, and I was all nervous and getting excited that he was going to be coming. And the other people who were in the grocery store were also getting kind of excited because they saw that I was so excited. And so finally my boyfriend drove up, and they told me the little store had the grocery store in the front and the little house in the back. So they told me to go into the little house so that my boyfriend wouldn't see me. And so my boyfriend got out of the car, and he saw that the package agency was closed. And so one of the ladies from the store went over to the package agency and told him that since the lady had to leave early, she had left the package inside their house. And so she kept trying to get him to go inside the store and then to go inside their house. But he was getting kind of nervous because everyone was laughing at him. So he didn't really want to go out or go inside the store. So then I finally saw him, and I walked out, and I'm like, hi. And I was so happy and excited to see him. And I think he was also happy and excited, but he was just kind of speechless. He didn't really say anything, but it was just really, really nice to see him. And it made for a very, very nice week, a lot better than the week would have been had I had to have stayed at school all by myself.
Question 1. Why couldn't the speaker's boyfriend visit her as planned? A. He couldn't get a visa. B. He had to work. C. He couldn't afford the airfare. D. He had to write a paper. Question 2. What did the speaker think about on the plane? A. How to find his house. B. Whether she could find a taxi or not. C. How to surprise him. D. The paper she had to finish. Question 3. Where did the speaker hide? A. In a small house. B. Behind the small house. C. In the grocery store. D. In the package store. Question 4. How did the speaker get her boyfriend to come to the store? A. Someone told him she was waiting. B. Someone told him to visit his friend. C. Someone asked him to pick up a package. D. Someone asked him to buy groceries. Question 5. What did the speaker's boyfriend say when he saw her? A. He said he was very surprised. B. He didn't say anything. C. He shouted out her name. D. He welcomed her to his home. Question 6. What is the main topic of this talk? A. An experience mailing a package. B. A surprise party. C. A problem with transportation. D. An unexpected visit.
My Uncle Howard is a big practical joker, but one time my sister and I got him back. It was last summer, and a friend of mine from New York came to visit me at my house in northern Michigan. And he had actually arrived in an airport in Detroit, which is farther south. So on his way back from the airport, my sister and I asked him to drop us off at my grandma and grandpa's house, which is probably 2 hours from my house and 2 hours from Detroit, right in the middle. So we were on our way to my grandparents' house. And just about as we were about to pull into the driveway, my sister had this great idea for how to surprise my uncle. So she told me to duck under the seat so that they wouldn't see us. So my sister and I were hiding in the seat, and in pulls Steve in his little, Steve's my friend's name, in pulls Steve in his little car. And so Steve got out of the car and he went to ask my Uncle Howard for directions for how to get to Detroit. And my Uncle Howard looked at him kind of weird because Detroit was probably about 2 hours away from my grandparents' house, but he thought that was okay and he told him directions. So Steve walks back to the car. And then my sister pops up and she tells him, go ask him for a drink of water. So Steve walks out again and he asks my Uncle Howard for a drink of water. Well, my uncle says, all right, and he takes him inside and my grandma gives him a glass of water and they talk for a little bit about whatever, that Steve's on his way to Detroit and what he did on his vacation, and he's kind of making things up. And so far my uncle isn't too mad. So Steve comes back out to the car one more time and my sister asks him to ask my Uncle Howard to please let him use the bathroom. So Steve gets out. He's been very good-natured throughout this all. He gets out, and he asks my Uncle Howard if he could please use the bathroom. Well, by this time, my uncle got very, very upset, and he told him, just go out back! And so then my uncle was quite mad, and Steve obviously didn't want to go to the bathroom behind my grandparents' house, so he came back to the car, and he's like, I don't think that this is a good joke to keep doing. He's getting really mad at me. So Laurel, my sister, and I finally got out of the car, and we went over and we're like, Uncle Howard, surprise! And then so we all had to laugh about this, and to this day, this is one of the funniest jokes because it's the day everyone finally got back at Uncle Howard.
Question 1. Where does the speaker's friend live? A. New York. B. Northern Michigan. C. Close to Detroit. D. Detroit. Question 2. Where does Uncle Howard live? A. Near Detroit Airport. B. In northern Michigan. C. 2 hours south of Detroit. D. Between Detroit and the speaker's house. Question 3. How many times did Steve ask Uncle Howard for a favor? A. 2 times. B. 5 times. C. 4 times. D. 3 times. Question 4. What did Uncle Howard do when Steve asked to use the toilet? A. He told him to go back to the car. B. He told him to go behind the house. C. He told him he could not use their bathroom. D. He told him to go upstairs. Question 5. Why did the family feel pleased about this joke? A. It made Uncle Howard laugh. B. It made Uncle Howard very angry. C. Uncle Howard is often difficult to get along with. D. Uncle Howard usually plays jokes on others. Question 6. What is this talk about? A. A funny story. B. A person named Steve. C. A joke the speaker told. D. A time the speaker visited Michigan.
Our family cat, Snickers, is not very friendly at all. She's actually probably one of the least friendly cats. Actually, the other day my sister had to take her to the vet because she had, I don't know if she got cut or she was bleeding. So my sister took her to the vet, and she also needed to get some shots. So while they were at the vet place, Snickers was okay because it was just my sister and Snickers in the room. And all of a sudden the vet entered and wanted to put Snickers on the little examination table and take her blood because she thought she might have feline leukemia. Well, Snickers didn't like that, and she started kind of, and she started hissing and trying to move all over, and she started trying to scratch the veterinarian, which she couldn't even do because she was declawed on her first front paws, but she just kept trying to snarl and hiss and trying to get away from the vet. So the vet had to leave, and she got back, and first she put on this little muzzle so that Snickers couldn't bite her. And that worked a little bit, but Snickers was still moving around, and she kept making loud noises and trying to get away. So the vet had to go and get 2 helpers. So now there were 2 helpers with a little muzzled cat just to take out blood for her. That pretty much describes how Snickers is.
Question 1. How does the speaker describe the cat? A. As an independent cat. B. As an unfriendly cat. C. As a noisy cat. D. As a happy cat. Question 2. When did the cat start to become angry? A. When the vet started to put the cat on the table. B. When the vet first came in the room. C. When the vet went to get someone to help. D. When the vet first touched the cat. Question 3. Why couldn't the cat scratch the vet? A. Because she held her claws. B. Because the cat had no front claws. C. Because she held her carefully. D. Because her colleagues held her tightly. Question 4. How many people did it take to control the cat? A. 3 people. B. 2 people. C. 4 people. D. 1 person. Question 5. What is the main purpose of this talk? A. To describe a visit to the vet's office. B. To tell where the speaker got the cat. C. To introduce the speaker's pets. D. To explain why the cat didn't have claws.